What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassidy. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares and set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right, Nightmare Success In and Out listeners, we are back, and I know you guys come here for the good stuff. The stuff about what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. How do you adapt? How do you survive? How do you overcome? Well, I've got a guest today that did all of that, and he's ripping it up now. It's Zach Babcock. He's got an unbelievable podcast that just keeps growing. It's called Underdog Empowerment. It's a podcast for alpha underdogs, and he's really an inspiration because of what he's done and how he's done it. There was something that he said that he keeps somewhere around in his room that says, "I'm here to get everything you said I couldn't." I love that. Mm-hmm. It's just like, yes, I get it. And I want to say Zach was really helpful with me, with Travis Ritchie, who was on here a couple podcasts ago, helping me get into over 200 prisons. There's, I think, over 750,000 tablets that's across the country. So, Zach Babcock, welcome in, man.
Brent, what is going on, man? I am excited to be here. Thank you for having me today, man.
Well, I want to unwrap all this stuff because your story is fascinating. I mean, and we'll just go back a little bit. You know, growing up as a kid, Zach, what was it like? I mean, I know your story. Can you tell the listeners just a little bit about what it was growing up when you were a kid?
Yeah, for sure. I'll keep it short, and then if you want to go deeper, we can always do that. Growing up as a kid, grew up. My dad died when I was 7, and I remember just like disassociating and like not crying and like, I didn't know what I was doing then, but I was literally disassociating from the experience or whatnot. And I didn't really just deal with that the right way. And then my life just started tail spinning after that, man. And I would always get told that I was no good, that I wasn't going to amount to anything because, I couldn't focus in school and, all this crazy shit. And always just told that I wasn't going to amount to anything, always being put down, like I wasn't good enough or whateby. And by the time I was 9, my mom had put me in a rehab. I got kicked out of there because I was the youngest one there. And then I got she put me in a psych ward. And this was before like the courts got their hands on me. So like my whole like youth was like in and out of juvenile detention centers, rehab, psych wards, you name it, all the way up till 17.
Jack, I can't even imagine that at 9 years old being in that type of environment. I mean, what were you thinking at that time as a kid being in that world?
Well, I recently in 2021, I started doing like whatever you want to call it, inner work, healing, whatever. I chose to do MDMA assisted psychotherapy, which has been right now. It's got a clinical trials, 70% success rate in clinical trials. Or
I've heard about it. Yeah,
some excellent
They're doing
stuff.
it with people who've been in war and all kinds of different trauma. Yeah.
Yeah, especially those people that have been in war or whatnot. It's some really good stuff. But so when I did that, man, it brings up memories that your ego literally suppresses. So like I forgot all about this stuff because like it was so painful at the time that my ego like suppressed it and disassociated, so I didn't have to feel and deal with it at the time. And it's literally been stored in my body the whole time, which is crazy.
It's wild. I mean, it's amazing what your mind can do, good and bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
When you were getting out of that, and then you were also, I mean, at that time, you're just a kid. I mean, what is school like for you? Are your teachers telling you the same thing? You're not going to amount to anything. This is not good for you. You're down the wrong road. We're going to just put you over here and not deal with you. How were you dealing with all that?
Yeah. So like, my mom, even though she put me in the rehab, she was always there supportive, like as far as like, hey, I believe in you. You could do anything you put your mind to. Like she was the one, giving me the encouragement that way. But she still put me in a psych ward when
Yeah.
I was 9, which was not a
How
good
long were
move.
you in there?
5 days, but man, it was 1 second.
Probably felt like 5 years.
Dude, I felt like I was gonna die 24/7. I'm 9 years old. I'm seeing like these crazy psycho kids like in the corner laughing and shit. Staff members are screaming at you and abusing you, literally restraining and hitting you. And
Like
then
a
I'm getting
scary
woken
movie.
up at, dude, I'd get woken up at like 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, whatever time it was. And I'd wake up being restrained and they'd have a fucking needle in my arm, shooting all types of drugs in me and taking my blood and shit, dude. Like it's fucking really fucked up, you know? But yeah. School, with all that going on, like, you know, when a lot of kids, they used to call it like ADD, and they said I had ADD, ADHD, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all that shit. Right.
Right.
And, um, I don't have a problem focusing at all. But I do, it's hard for me to focus on something that doesn't interest me, that I'm not passionate about.
Sure.
But I've been learning a lot, like a lot of the shit that I was doing in school. And the reason why I couldn't focus, because I had all this fucking trauma and shit fucking
Sure.
going on, you know?
Right. I get it. So and if I remember your story correctly, you were rolling along and then you started getting into heavier drugs. And I'm assuming that was a way for you kind of to escape from all the stuff you were dealing with.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. So I started smoking weed at 9. That's the reason why my mom put me in the rehab. I was smoking weed to numb myself, you know what I'm saying, from the shit, right? To not feel it, to not have to deal with it, right? And did that all the way up till 17. And then that's when I started graduating to other drugs. Eventually, dude, I started playing around with ecstasy and coke. And before I know it, I'm overdosing on heroin and smoking crack. It's crazy.
So how did you get, you know, I think your siblings, you had a sister, right?
Yeah.
She was younger, older?
She was older, 3.5 years.
3.5 years older. So this starts happening, start getting into drugs. And how does the legal world come down on you? What happens on your own nightmare with that?
Yeah, man. So was in and out of juvenile detention, boys homes, whatever, all my adolescence and youth. And then by the time I was 17, I had caught a case. We were out being idiots. We didn't even need to steal, but we were out stealing from people's cars in rich neighborhoods. And that led to people leaving like garage door openers in their car. And so we'd open that up, go hit some other houses, come back. If the garage door was still open, then we'd hit the garage and take their power tools or whatever they had that was valuable in there. And we didn't even need to steal the stuff. Like I wasn't rich, but I wasn't poor. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we were just doing it because we were bored. And
Mhm.
long story short, caught a case. I took the rap for all of our, it was 4 of us. I took the rap for everybody. And then that got me into the adult prison system. And then, just tailspin after that was started the heavier drugs and just thought life was over and was giving up on life.
So when you got the first sentence, I think if I remember right, was it 7 years that they tagged you with?
Yep. 7-year sentence.
And I guess that was a state case in Missouri. What's it like? What were you, 19 years old?
Yeah.
What was it like walking into that world and that age?
Whew, man. The more probably more traumatic than what it needed to be. But I was I was in county jail for 8 months before I got sentenced and before I actually finally left county jail to go to prison. And the whole time in there, I'm stressing the fuck out, thinking like, oh man, dude, like I'm not soft or anything, but I'm also, not some big Debo dude or either.
Sure,
And I'm like,
right.
man, I'm like, dude, are they going to try and rape me? Whatever. Like, I'm thinking about all this stuff, man. And it like losing sleep, just panicking, stressing out. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing good about county jail. I mean, for people who've been to jail, there's a difference between jail and prison. And,
oh yeah.
So you walk in to prison and do you have any different strategies of how you're going to deal with that world? I mean, you walk in, fairly young kid. A lot of young kids are in prison though. You have anybody that comes and helps you out? You have anybody, you get a prison job? What, like, how do you live in that world?
Yeah, I remember there was a guy in county jail that I did a bunch of time and that I had gotten pretty cool with. He was like in a group that I'd always hang out with. It's like four of us or whatever that we'd hang out whenever we came out ourselves. And I'd pick his brain, and he told me, he's like, hey man, because I was like, dude, what do I do when I get there? Like, how do I was freaking out. He's like, look, get there, mind your own business, number one. Number two, stand on your shit. You don't got to go fighting or nothing, but don't let nobody punk you or nothing. And if you say something, do it. And then number three, stick with your own kind. Unfortunately, in prison, as you know, you've been to prison, the racism is a lot like more, what would you say, more prevalent?
Primitive, yeah, it's primitive. It's a primitive environment, yeah.
Yeah, like when you go to the chow hall, white people sit with white people, black people sit with black people, Mexican, like that's how it is in there. And if you go and if you are white and you go sit with the black or Mexicans or whatever, they're coming after you. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. So told me those three rules, and I was like, okay, I could do that. I could stand on my own shit, and I can mind my own business, and I can stick with my own kind. I got it. And so,
got it.
Yeah,
good advice.
Yeah, that was it.
On the outside, you got your mom, your sister, and a girlfriend.
I did have my girlfriend when I went back to prison. When I went in the first time for the long stretch, and I didn't have a girlfriend.
Did you get visits?
Yeah, my mom. So even though she did traumatize the fuck out of me by putting me in that rehab and shit, and that psych ward or whatnot, she was always there for me though. Like as far as like she would always come visit every day. She'd always like tell me you could do anything you put your mind to, and she genuinely did love me, even though she made some mistakes like we all do. But yeah, she was there and supportive.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. I mean, I was lucky like that. My wife at the time, she came, and the one thing I think about visits is it's like you straddle the fence. You got the prison world and you got the outside world, and if you can have that connection, it keeps you from getting too institutionalized into the prison world. I think. I mean, you can still get institutionalized because you get into bad habits and ugly. You're in an ugly environment, and there's things. But I think the other thing that you said that's interesting, and I also think it's something that plays into as you get out, you search for people that were getting it right too. So, how do I make this work? How do I make this work for me? And that's what you got to do in business too. You got to look and say, okay, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. Who's getting it right? And then how can I implement that back into my world? I know that there's a really gripping story that you talk about where you're in prison, you get put in the hole. I can't remember why you got put in the hole, but you're in there and you get called out of there to the captain's office, which is never good. And can you kind of lead us through what happened with that?
Yeah, for sure. So this was 2010. I was 2 years into my stay there. Like I said, I had a 7-year sentence. At this time, I didn't know when I was coming home. I ended up coming home a little bit over after 4 years. So I'm 2 years into this 4-year stay at the time. Still don't know when I'm coming home. I'm 21 years old, in the hole for tattoo violations. And like you said, I got called back to the captain's office. I'm thinking in my mind, somebody out in the yard had told on me for something that I hadn't gotten in trouble for yet, or they were trying to get me to tell on somebody else. And so, when I get back there, I'm all in this like, what do y'all want? Like trying to play this tough guy stuff. And he's like, Mr. Babcock, when you come back to here, it's nothing good. And so anyways, I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. I ain't got nothing to say. Put me back in my cell. And he's like, yeah, we got a call from your mom. And she found your sister dead on the floor with a needle in her arm. My mom had to break into the bathroom with a screwdriver and found her dead from a heroin overdose.
Oh.
Yeah, dude. And dude, I just started crying. And, I asked to be put back in a cell by myself because I had a cellie at the time. And luckily the hole wasn't filled up, and so they had extra space, and the guards were cool about that and let me go into a cell by myself. And the next 3 days was just all I could think about was all the mean shit I ever said to her, and how I wouldn't be able to say her goodbye, and how my mom was going to be at the funeral with burying her only daughter and her only son's in prison, all this shit, right? And just in a really, really dark place, man. And it was really, really tough. And I remember on that third day, though, I woke up and was like, God, I don't know why I'm here, but there is a reason because I'm still breathing. What can I do right now to find happiness and peace, man? And that question just led to this answer of keep your shit in order, dial it in. Like this, I'll spare you the details, but like, man, OCD don't have nothing on what I was doing in the cell every single day. Same thing, same time, every single day, like clockwork. But it helped give me a peace of mind and keep some sanity in there. And yeah, man, I learned a great lesson by that, you know, about the quality of questions that we ask ourselves, which is really important.
Yeah, because your mind responds to it. You know, when you ask yourself questions, you know, it's your mind then tries to find the solution.
Yep.
And you know, I think from where you were, I mean, you had a 30-second conversation with your mom, which if you think about that, that's almost unbelievable to think that you were dealing with something that traumatic, losing your sister, and you had 30 seconds to share with your mom that information, and then you're led back into by yourself in the hole. And you know, a lot of people, I think what's interesting about that, I think it's what's interesting about your story, Zach, is that a lot of people, you know, everybody falls down and everybody finds their rock bottom. Sometimes they find it a couple of times, but you could have gotten in a fetal position and just given up.
Yeah.
But something, the way that you're wired, didn't do that. Did just the opposite. You went to try to find a solution to make yourself feel better, and you started cleaning up the place, started doing things that, you know, that made you feel different. And once you got out of there, you still had what, 2.5 years or 2 years left, right?
Yeah.
Was your
Like
time?
it's,
Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, at that time, I didn't know when I didn't have a parole date yet. So I didn't even know when I was coming home. But yeah, I ended up doing 2 more years.
Did it feel different, your time from that point forward?
Absolutely, man. So what's crazy is I spared a lot of detail about this story because I didn't want to just go into a ramble mode. But man, before this, I would do things that I didn't want to do to fit in with other
Mm-hmm.
people. Like I wanted to be accepted. I mean, we all do. Everybody wants
Yeah,
to be accepted.
sure.
It's just human nature. But I really wanted to be accepted really bad. And so I would do stupid shit that got me in a lot of trouble just to be accepted by the cool guys in prison or whatnot, or fit in with them or whatnot. And I never really felt like a real man, that like I could say no to other people or something until this happened. And I went through this process, and then I was down in the hole for 2 months. So I'm doing this crazy routine, and I'm finding God and whatnot throughout this process. And at the end of it, I found a peace of mind in one of the darkest times of my life, probably one of the most peaceful I've ever been in my life. And I was inside of a prison cell, which is crazy. And when I got out the hole finally, I was like a new person. I was rebirthed through that experience, man. And from that point on, I no longer did shit to like I would say no if I didn't want to do something. Like, hey man, let's go do it. I'm like, nah, man, I'm cool. I'm not doing that. You know. It was like a moment where I finally like stepped into my own, as you would say.
Yeah, found yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. So you do your time, you get out. Well, tell me about this. So everybody gets a little weirded out when they get, you know, a few months to the door. What were you thinking at that time?
I was ready. I couldn't wait to get back home. At the same time, it was like it's going to be different because I'm used to being locked up now, and like I had gotten to the point where I didn't even think about the outside. Once you know it, man. Once you're locked up for so long, you quit thinking about the outside stuff and you just focus on your day to day in there, and that's how you do your time. And that's where I was at. I was like almost institutionalized in a sense, somewhat to a degree. And yeah, so I was like, man, it's going to be quite of an adjustment coming out.
Yeah, and I think reason I brought that up is I think it's interesting how in a really bad place, prison, guys can get freaked out about getting out of prison because they've become so used to the ugly routine that freedom scares them or makes them uncomfortable, makes them nervous. And I think that you see a lot of that on the outside too. You know, people get into these ugly routines, and you know, whether it's a health crisis, bad marriage, bad job, whatever those things are, people get into those ruts, and then an opportunity presents itself and they can't step into it because it's too much of the unknown. You see guys catch they catch an extra charge while they're in prison, so they stay in prison, which it doesn't sound rational, because
No.
you say, well, how the hell could that happen to you? How could you stay in prison? It's because whatever's going on out there seems overwhelming, and what's inside the prison walls seems like something, and it's that whole unknown known thing.
Yeah.
And people say, I don't get it, but on the outside, people do it all the time. They stay in a really bad situation, and the only thing that's going to help them is stepping into the unknown. And that's always fearful. Even if it's a good thing, it scares people. Even if it's a good thing, people get scared walking into the unknown. So, Zach, you step out. How do you step out? Who's there? Who's your support team when you get out?
Man, it's a funny story. So I got out the February 28th, 2012. I was 23 years old, just did a little bit over 4 years in prison. So when I went in, I went in at 19, get out now, and I'm 23. So that means I could go to the bar and shit like that, right? Experience all that shit for the first time. Well, first day,
That's
my
right,
mom.
because you were 19, you weren't 21. So yeah, that would be a whole new world. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. And what's funny is my mom came to pick me up, and I was in Pacific Prison, which is about 45 minutes from St. Louis, where I lived. And my mom came and picked me up, and she brought the same outfit that I had, when I got locked up. And when I got locked up in 2008, we were wearing, and I was like, trying to be like a gangster back then.
Uh-huh.
And
right. I heard well, some of your background stuff, you wanted to be a rapper, I believe, but that
yeah. We'll save that for another time, man.
Save that for another day.
But my clothes, man, back in 2008, what was in style was real baggy clothes. Like she brought up my pants, which was a size 44 waist. I wear a size 32. So I could literally fit my whole body in one leg. And so I'm putting on the clothes, and I'm like, I look at my mom, I'm like, yo, Mom, I'm not trying to freeload or anything, but you think you could take me by somewhere to pick up an outfit that fits me? And she laughed and was like, yeah. And so we leave the prison and we go to Target, and we get in Target, and I started freaking the fuck out, man, because it was so weird. Because like you're in society, and everybody's walking around, they got a smile on their face, and they're like talking and conversating to you and stuff.
Sensory overload.
Yeah, and I'm used to just like everybody, minding their own business. Nobody has a smile on their face, and nobody's talking and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Being friendly. So it freaked me out. And then like I'm there, and I give my mom the clothes, and I'm like, can I go out in the car? I'm freaking out. She's like, yeah, sure. And it's like, all right, I'm going. And like I was going to leave, and they got the doors where you walk in, the sliding doors where you walk in, you got the sliding doors where you walk out, and then they got the sliding doors in the middle for the carts that you put the shopping carts in. Well, there wasn't any shopping carts in there right at the time. So I thought it was just a normal door, and I'm trying to go through the middle, and the door wouldn't open, and I'm started panicking. I'm like,
you're like, yeah.
They locked it on me, and they're getting ready to lock me up because or some shit. I was stressed out, man. It was an adjustment, man. It was wild to get used to the free world again after being gone for so long.
So you get into the world. What are your first steps to getting back into the free world?
Man, at this time I was 23, and I ended up going back to prison after this. I stayed out for 2 years, and then I went back one more time. Which
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that too. Don't want to go over or gloss over that, because that's a big part of your story, with at the time that it all happened, and you, because the interesting part of your story, I think, Zach, is that you kind of found basically who you were back down to your soul. You get out, you start drinking, and then that, I guess in a sense, drinking can bring you down. I mean, it can depress you too. What was all going on with you at that time?
Yeah, man. I got out, was doing excellent, man. I was drinking, of course, still numbing, doing shit to numb, like always was. And still, even after I got sober, when I was doing business, I was being super ultra successful to numb and like, the other shit,
Sure.
right? So yeah, I'm drinking though. I wasn't like alcoholic heavy. I was just like, drinking, partying socially and stuff, working at a bar and stuff. Well, over time, about a year later, I got a job at this clothing store that I used to always shop at. And I was excited, man, because, ex-convict, you can't really get hardly any jobs, man, let alone a good one. And I'm excited because it's in sales. And I'm like, dude, that's my jam. And it's at a clothing store that I already shop at, that I love shopping at. So I'm like, cool, And so, man, I get to rock in there. Third day on the job, I sold 3,000 on a 6-hour shift. The whole operation that day did 9,000 total. So in 6 hours, I was 1/3 of the whole operation for the day. And they gave me a promotion, and boom, I'm in management. I'm excited. I'm finally putting my past behind me. And then human resources called me like, yeah, you're a convicted felon. You got to kick rocks. And so like, just like that, I was like on top of the world, thinking I'm advancing, to all the wind knocked out of my sails.
Yeah.
Like, damn, I'm never gonna overcome this. This is all. And so I was defeated, and I had a defeated mindset, and I gave in and threw in the towel and just started drinking hardcore. Like, would wake up by like 10 in the morning from being so wasted the night before, and drink all throughout the day, slamming beers until about 9 p.m. hits. And then we start switching to whiskey and all the way to whatever. And it was just like, fuck it, man, it's over, man. And then ended up getting a DWI and led me going back to prison.
What's your girlfriend thinking at this time? I mean, are you having conversations with her about that, or what? Like, are you just closed off? Like, how's she dealing with you and your world? Because you were doing well. I mean, if I remember right, you had a job at a restaurant bar. You were doing well there. Then you got this sales job. You were doing well there. They kick you in the head saying that you're an ex-convict, can't work there. Where does she play into your mental world of how does she deal with that?
Yeah, man. We also, she was pregnant too with twin boys. And man, there was just a lot of shit at that time. And I was in a really dark place, and I was really like pushing her away. Like, I was like burning everything down at that point. Just like, fuck it, burn it all down, and pushing her away, and just going out and drinking and just giving up, man. And she was there. She was being supportive and trying to get me on the right track.
So you get picked up for DWI. I guess you're on probation. I'm sure you had parole for a few years, and then you get the DWI. How do you find out you're going back?
So I got the DWI. They made bond, and then a few weeks later was out drinking again. Was at a bar, wasted. Apparently, I tried to pick a fight with a guy, and then the police got called, and I woke up in Ferguson jail with a massive headache and back hurting, sleeping on the metal bunk, and learned Stephanie couldn't come bail me out. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, they put a parole violation and you're going back to prison. And this is 20 days from my twin sons were born. And my heart like dropped when I heard that, man. I was like, fuck, man, the one thing, and I'm going to miss out on their birth, which was something that I always want. I couldn't wait to be a dad, because I never had one growing up. And so that for me, it right there in that jail cell, that's when my life changed, was that phone call. Cause that's when I said, fucking, I don't care what it takes. I'm moving in this direction from now on.
Wow. How long do you go back?
Yeah. So I didn't know how long they were going to keep me for. I knew that, usually you go back for a little 6-month setback usually, unless it's more severe. I had a year and a half left on parole, so I knew that's the longest they could keep me for. So it was anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half. I ended up doing 8 months. So.
Okay, so now you get out this time. You got twin boys. So you got a whole nother world at you now. You got twin boys, but you're coming out to a life that you've hit your second rock bottom and said, hey, this is it. Everything's changed. So what happens when you head out this time?
Yeah, man. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I said I was going to do my plan that didn't ever happen, but my plan was, I knew I was going to have to change my people, places, and things for sure.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I need to get different results. So need to change all that up, which I
That's a
was
big
cool on
tip
that.
there,
But
what you just said, Zach. That's a
oh
big
yeah,
tip. Yeah.
people, places, and things, man. That's at your environment, the people you surround yourself with, and the things you're doing. Get around the right people that already got and doing what you want, and get in the environment you want to be in, man, and do the
Yeah.
things. That's like you said. But yeah, man, I knew I had to do that, but I didn't know what I was gonna do to be successful. I was like, man, I was like, in my mind, I was like, dude, I already know it's gonna be hard as hell to get a job. Well, the Michael Brown situation happened in Ferguson while I was
Ferguson.
while I was in prison that last time. And like I said, I'm from Ferguson. And so I was like, man, this is crazy. News making this shit out way crazier than what it is. You know, this is how the news is. Still a very unfortunate situation. I was like, man, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make these wristbands that say I Heart Ferguson on them, and these t-shirts that say I Heart Ferguson on them. And I'm going to go door to door and sell them. And
Perfect.
hell of a business model, by the way. But
Yeah.
that was the goal. And so I got out and was looking for a job to fund that idea, and couldn't find a job to fund that idea. And so that ended up never happening, because I ended up getting involved in network marketing to kick things off, which is another crazy story.
And how did you find that? Where did that
Bro,
come into play?
I was in the gym every day and just making posts, and a guy commented on one of my posts like, hey, I got this drink, you want to try it or whatever? And I was like, I will if you can make some money off of it. And he ended up only living 15 minutes away from me, so we met up and tried the drink out. It was like a little natural energy drink or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was like, fuck it, let's go. And yeah, we made it happen, dude. I was making almost $2,000 a month residual income through network marketing for about 2 years there, which is actually really fucking good in that industry.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But, yeah. And it wasn't like I was rich or nothing, but man, that was a game changer for somebody coming out of prison that could barely get a job anywhere. And now I'm making more than most of my friends and able to feed my family. And so it was a game changer, and it taught me a lot, and I'm super grateful for it. But at the end of the day, it wasn't my thing. It was a stepping stone to get to my thing.
So let's talk about that. Cause I mean, I don't know if anybody, the one thing I say about when you get out, you no matter what, you have a tattoo on your forehead that says, I'm an ex-felon. And,
Yep.
And when people wonder, why is it so hard? Well, if you can't get a place to live or you can't get a job, it makes it really hard to get back into society. What I think is cool though, Zach, is that you knew you'd already been kicked in the head. You'd already shown that you could sell, and they said, no, we don't want you, only because you were an ex-felon. But then you knew down deep, hey, I'm good at this. I can sell. And you reapplied it into a place that would take you, and you made it. And you used that piece, because I want to talk about what you're doing now. You use that piece as a stepping stone to get to what your passion was. So you're at that point, you're making good money, you're taking care of your family. What's going through your mind?
I knew it wasn't my thing. It wasn't I was building somebody else's dream, and I was super grateful for the industry and always will be. But the industry, it taught me like what was possible. It showed me a lot of things that what were possible. And I was like, man, I need to go do my own fucking thing. And also too, my income had started dwindling a little bit. I was still making like either anywhere from 750 to 1,500 a month, fluctuating or whatnot. Never did drop down below that, but I wasn't passionate about it anymore, man. And so I decided at the beginning of 2017 to jump off the cliff and grow wings on the way down, like I always do, and go start my own thing. And
I like that. Jump off the cliff and grow wings on the way down. That's good. I like that.
Got to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up leaving that and struggled mightily for the next year and a half with that too. But yeah, that was the game plan.
So where did you go? What was your next? Were you reading? What was getting you to the point where I'm gonna, as an entrepreneur, you take bits and pieces and then you jump. So what did you jump to?
Man, I seen Gary Vaynerchuk at the time, and I was just watching his stuff, and I was like, man, I don't know what the fuck he actually does, but I want to do what he's
He's
doing.
one of the biggest people. That guy's unreal. I mean, I don't know how many. He might have the most followers on all social media, but the guy is unreal.
Yeah, 1000%. And I'd see him, and I was like, dude, I truly don't know what he does to make money, but I want to do what he's doing and just create content because that's what I love doing.
Yeah.
And so I left and I started doing that, and quickly learned like, oh shit, I need to make money doing this. How do I make money? And so that started that whole process, man, of like trying to figure out how to craft an offer, message, and all this stuff. And it wasn't pretty. And there was, people say this overnight success now, but there was many nights where I'm up at 3 or 4 in the morning trying to figure out how to get a fucking funnel to work or whatever, learning all this shit. But man, I was definitely grateful for the process.
So did you go, if I remember us talking, Zach, did you go to like a mastermind or something? If I remember right, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think I'm remembering this right. Like you just gathered up a bunch of money for this mastermind event because this guy had what you thought you needed and you went to it. And that was kind of your rocket fuel for you to take off. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, for most part. So two big events. That was the second one. First one was I launched the podcast in April of 2018. Before I launched the podcast, nobody was wanting to do anything with me. Like I'd reach out to people and people would like open my messages and leave them unseen and not respond back a lot of times. And I just felt like, nobody, took me seriously, honestly. And I was using that as a chip on my shoulder. And so I launched the podcast, got it ranked on day 3, and had Billie Jean's marketing on the following week. So in 1 week's worth of time, I went from nobody giving me the time of day to interviewing very influential people that a lot of people already know and look up to that I'm trying to talk to. And so I was like, holy shit, man, this is wild. And so that was cool. But
a lot of people give up. That's one of the crazy things about podcasting is I think 80% of the podcasts drop off in the first, 3 months? They quit because they can't get the content, can't get the whatever it is. But you found a way, and then you got somebody really big on, and I'm sure that created some momentum for you.
Oh yeah, man. 1000%, man. And like you said, man, most people quit, by episode 13, they're done.
Yeah.
So I broke through with that and I'm like, wow, this is, it started like getting me brand awareness and building my brand and like opening up opportunities, more people wanting to do stuff with me. People are wanting to come on the podcast. Obviously, people want me to come speak at their events. So I'm like, this is cool as shit, man. But I still wasn't making money yet. I hadn't figured that part out yet. I was making anywhere from like $200 to $800 a month through affiliate marketing that I was doing, but that was it. And that's not enough to feed a family. And so, I that was the first event, April 2018. Fast forward to 8 months or so, or 4 or 5 months later, I seen that offer where Mitch put out an offer about helping you, with crafting an offer first and foremost for a specific audience, and then communicating that offer through copywriting to them or whatnot and positioning. And he wrote this bomb ass offer for his mastermind. Which is $2,000 a month. And I seen it. And at the time, our bills were backed up. Our water was shut off. Like literally, our water was shut off, man. We got 4 kids and credit cards maxed out. And I went and got a title loan on my Chrysler Aspen for $4,000. Crazy dumb interest rates, like crazy high. Everybody's saying you're crazy. And I went and got in his mastermind at $2,000 a month just to try to learn that stuff. And everybody said like, dude, you're stupid. You're crazy, yada, yada. Well, 8 months later, we had a 6-figure business because I went all in on that.
I love that. I love that story because you went all in. My grandpa used to say the difference between the ham and the eggs at breakfast. The chicken's involved. That pig, he was damn committed. But you went all in. I mean, you got totally committed, and I'm sure everybody around you thought that was nuts. I mean, like you said, your water's cut off, but you had this drive, this passion, this burn that you had that said, I got something in me. I got to make this work. I know it's going to work. And you found a way to find your way there, not everybody would have done that. Not everybody would have gone to the mastermind. They would say, it's too much. I can't do it. There's no way to get there. I can't. And you figured out I can. And then you end up going, and your thing's really blown up, Zach. I mean, you just got off the interview with Brad Lee, who's, big. I mean, I don't know if there's probably 5 or 6 people that are just gigantic, and he's one of them. But you're just tenacious, man. You just keep going. You don't take no. If they say no, they don't have enough information yet. And so you get back from that mastermind. How long was it from the time that you felt like you had the tools that things started working for you?
Yeah, man. Went and got in that mastermind in September of 2018 and didn't break through, didn't make money until March of 2019. So I went and got that title loan in September 2018. We're going all the way to March now. It got worse in between that time with money. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it got even more stressful, but the skills were being developed, the labor was being put in, and the fruits were getting ready to be harvested.
How were you guys getting by? I mean, how did you survive?
Stephanie, and then credit cards maxed out, using her dad's credit card. You know what I'm saying?
Anything you could do.
Yeah, winging it, man, getting by, figuring it out.
Winging, hustling, and getting it. It's cool because I how I found out about you, the trainer, is it Bart?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a good friend of mine, and I think he goes to the same gym. He said, "Man, you got this." I think they have the same trainer. You guys have the same trainer, and he said, "You got to talk to this Zach Babcock, man. He's really just blowing." And then I started checking out what you were doing. I was like, man, because I'm a big believer when somebody's doing something really good, go talk to them, try to figure it out. That's how you and I got connected. Is trying to figure out what in the world you were doing, or how were you making it work? And you've helped me out. The things. Some of the things that I wasn't doing, it was like I had to just kind of slap my forehead and think, oh, hell, why wasn't I doing that? One of the things you said was to go on other people's podcasts and be guests, because that's where they are. They're already on that platform. They're podcast listeners. They're not necessarily on Instagram and Facebook, even though you have an influence there. But if you get on other people's podcasts as a guest, then they're going to see you as somebody, and then, oh, well, I'll go check out Zach. I'll go check out Brent. They've got a podcast. I'll go listen to it. Simple, but man, it's a big deal. Because I mean, I think, you were telling me when you first started doing that, you were doing, a podcast or 2 a day as a guest. And you showed me the charts on that. It wasn't easy, but then all of a sudden that thing took off, and then it became a multiple for you. So it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
so,
man.
Zach, what's your next, where you're at now? Because I know you've done really well. I mean, you've got yourself, a house that's out by a lake, and we were joking, your kids were out there, you were showing them how to breathe when it's 40 degrees outside in the water. I mean, all kinds of the stuff that you got to learn. But I've never done that, by the way, but I'm sure that's incredible. What are you thinking is your next step on this whole world thing? World dominance, I guess.
Yeah, for me, it's crazy. I was trying a little bit to go all in on this passion project, as you would say, or something that's more of like a purpose. Like, obviously, we launched the podcast business back in 2019, and we've launched to date 278 podcasts launched that got them ranked on Apple, and we got 281 in the queue.
A lot of podcasts.
Yeah, it helped a lot of people, and podcasts changed my life. It gave me a platform to get my message out there and to literally do everything I'm doing today. And it's really cool helping other entrepreneurs do the same thing. Well, I wanted to do more. That's how we are as entrepreneurs anyways, but I was like, man, I can help people so much more than just, with podcasts. I can help them with marketing in general, but man, I can help people just from a life perspective, man, and whatnot. And that's what I really, want to do and what I'm called to do. But I was trying to go all in on that, on the passion project or the side hustle or whatnot. and I was trying to move away from the main thing. And the main thing is the podcast business. And until the side hustle or the passion project becomes the main thing, you got to keep the main thing the main thing.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So what we're doing now is I'm all in. I'm always all in on something, right? But I'm all in on the podcast business, and we're scaling that deal out, and we're gonna get it to a level where I can really, maybe give more time to the other things. I'm still doing the Alpha Dog Pound, and which is our mastermind, and still doing that event that we do once a year, Alpha Dog Pound Live. Every July is when we like to do that. But yeah, all in on the podcast, and yeah, I got tons of goals that I could go through, but that's the big one right now is really scale the podcast powertrain up.
Yeah, and I was listening to you were talking about on the beginning of the Brad Leah interview. You were talking about you kind of hit a lull with, I've done all this, I've kind of gotten to where I wanted to get to, but you didn't want to get away from being the passion and being a great dad and being there for doing. And I see all the stuff that you're doing. You're coaching and you're doing all those things. You never. And I think Brad said, well, that is your business. Your family is your business. And I think the great thing I think about what you're doing is that you're keeping things in priority and perspective. Making money is one thing. Making a difference is another thing. Changing people's lives is the real thing. And, for me, I look at what you're doing and I've had money, and the thing about money is you don't worry about that anymore. All the other stuff you still have. I think they say that in Forrest Gump, well, don't have to worry about that. But the biggest thing is that I think the thing that fills you up is changing and helping people and changing their lives. That's whatever that fuel is, whatever that, and then you obviously have to figure out how to monetize so that you can make that happen. But man, that feels good when it does happen, when you know that you're really touching and making a difference in what you're doing, and that helps people's lives get better. And that's powerful stuff.
Amen. Amen, dude. I'd like to just expound on that real quick. What you said about with the kids and stuff, man, like I'm all in, dude. And like, don't get me wrong. Like I grind, I work hard, all these great things. Like I will go hard and I do. But now, like for 6 years, I sacrificed like time with my health and my time with my family and stuff, because I thought that I had to do that in order to build the business. Now I'm at the part where I realize, like, wait a minute, dude, I could build this business whenever. And right now, my kids are never going to be this young again. They're not going to be in the house for forever.
Exactly.
This is the only time I'm going to, this is the only time I'm going to get with them like this. So now I have a hard cut, 4 p.m. Central. I don't give a fuck what kind of fires are going on in the business. I don't care. I'm done for the day, switching to dad mode, and I'm with my kids. And now, like, I'll favor like if my kid's home from school, like he is today or whatever, I'm going to, instead of like do work the whole day, like when I got my creative time, I'm going to take him out to lunch instead. I'd rather spend my time with my son and take him out to lunch than do, like, I'm still going to do the work.
Absolutely. I think that's, and you won't miss. I mean, you do that now, there's no way to regret it later. I got one last question for you, Zach, because I know you got to jump. Going through everything you've gone through, and you've gone through a journey here, what do you think's your biggest takeaway to tell the people out there?
Man, focus on only the things that you can control and keep the small promises that you make to yourself daily. And that's how you win in life. If you like, look, man, we're all humans, dude. You're going to feel all the emotions. You're going to feel fear. You're going to feel scared and depressed and despair and all that. Like, there's no way around it. You're also going to feel joy, bliss, and happiness and all these things too. We're humans. We're going to feel it all. If you want to, and I'm a firm believer, there's no such thing as balance. All right. There's no work-life balance. Like even ballerinas, they look like they're balancing, but they're not balancing. They're just counterbalancing. Their toes are moving real fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, There's no such thing as balance, right? But I do believe that there is harmony. And I believe if you just focus on only the things that you can control and you keep those small promises that you make to yourself, that's how you get into that flow of life, that harmony. So that's what I would leave everybody with.
Love it. Send it there, Zach. I'll let you go. I know you got to get. For everybody who's looking for a book out there, you can get it. Nightmare Success. I wrote one called Nightmare Success. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, even Walmart. The likes and all the social media comments. If anybody wants to leave me a message on BrentCassidy.com, I'd love that. Follow the show. And like I used to say when I was out, writing my emails back from behind the prison walls, stay strong, and I'll do the same. Nightmare Success, in and out. Thanks, everybody.